The only rule in the cheese room is no shoes in the cheese room. We went to culinary school in Italy, and as part of our master's program that we went through over there, we learned to make cheese. And when we came back to this country, we thought we were going to go into the restaurant business, but we fell in love with making cheese.
I'm David Caputo, and this is my wife,
Ren Caputo, and together we own Caputo Brothers Creamery in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. We found that a lot of the cheeses we were used to eating over there did not exist in this country. Even if they were here in name, the flavors were not right. So we started making cheese at home, and one thing led to another, and here we are, cheesemakers.
I grew up in an Italian family. We used to eat provolone cheese, mozzarella, as we had called it when I was growing up. All kinds of Italian cheeses, Parmigiano Reggiano, which is obviously very well known. Grated on your pasta, you eat it in chunks, and that's just some of the more well-known cheeses. But Italian cheese has a very regal history and a rich history of varied variety of cheese and good cheese. We have decided to focus in the beginning of our business on what we call the pasta filata cheeses, as they would call it in Italy, which are any cheese that is stretched. So that would be mozzarella, provolone, and things like that. And those are all based kind of off the same concept and manner of making cheese. This type of cheese, where you're stretching the curds, in Italian they call that pasta filata, which just means a stretched dough or a stretched curd cheese. So mozzarella, provolone, those are types of cheeses that are all made in that manner of stretching. And that would be different than making other types of cheese, like cheddar is not made that way. So all different cheeses are made in different ways. But interesting that they all have the same basic ingredients of milk, salt, and cultures.
Cheese in Italy is really something that is paramount or a real central focus at the table, whether it be a cow's milk cheese like the ones we make, a water buffalo cheese like the mozzarella di bufala that a lot of people know of, or even sheep milk, pecorino. Pecorino is a very, very commonly eaten cheese in Italy, much more so than you would find here in the U.S. They had milk, they had bacteria, culture is the nice word we use, that existed in the air. And that's what I think makes our cheeses different than most of the other American cheeses. What happens is that culture actually eats up the sugar that's in the milk and converts it into lactic acid. We all make cheese in our refrigerator every day with our gallon of milk that we have in there. And those little chunks you sometimes get at the bottom are just the cheese that's starting to be made. If you can imagine, thousands of years ago, the bacteria that grew in Italy was very different than that in France or Switzerland or Holland. And so the types of cheese flavors and the processing that they used to develop those cheeses was based on the flavors that lived organically there. When we put it back down in the water, we're just letting it heat up so that we can work with it a little easier. The smaller the shape, the less time they sit in the salt brine, the younger you would eat them. The larger the shape, the more time we have to put them in the salt brine, the longer you could age them. So the small ones might age for only a couple of weeks, where the large ones could go up to a year. And for someone who likes sharp provola, that is, basically a provolone that has aged for longer and concentrating that flavor, allowing more of that acidity to develop, which is what gives the cheese the sharpness. The challenge with just using the bacteria that's in the environment is you have no control. So in modern day cheese making, we actually have the ability to take the cultures that existed in Italy, replicate those in a lab, and be able to put those directly into our milk. So even though we're not in Italy, we're using cultures that came from those areas that emulate those flavors.